Welcome to 5 Minute Nerd, where we break down nerd culture in just 5 minutes. Today we're diving into The Two Towers, the second book in J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Two Towers picks up right where the Fellowship of the Ring left off, with the Fellowship broken and scattered. The story is divided into two major plot lines following both Frodo and Sam on their journey to Mordor, and Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, as they fight to protect Middle-earth from the growing threat of Saruman and Sauron's forces. Let's start with Frodo and Sam, whose journey into the heart of Mordor becomes darker and more dangerous. After the Fellowship's breaking, the two hobbits venture into the Eamon Muil, a labyrinth of jagged, rocky terrain. Here they meet Gollum, a pivotal character who once owned the One Ring and whose life was twisted by it. Initially, Gollum stalks Frodo and Sam, but after a struggle, Frodo shows him mercy. Frodo, sensing a kindred spirit in Gollum, believes that the creature might still have some goodness left and can be redeemed. This is one of the most significant decisions Frodo makes in the story. Gollum, under pressure, swears an oath to help the hobbits and guides them toward Mordor, but his motives remain suspicious. This relationship between Frodo, Sam, and Gollum becomes a major source of tension throughout The Two Towers. Frodo's empathy for Gollum deepens, largely because he sees what the ring's corrupting power can do to someone over time, something Frodo is starting to experience himself. As they move deeper into enemy territory, the weight of the ring becomes almost unbearable for Frodo, and he begins to rely more on Gollum's guidance. Sam, however, remains fiercely protective of Frodo and deeply distrustful of Gollum. This tension between Sam's loyalty and Frodo's growing connection to Gollum leads to frequent clashes between the two hobbits, as Sam is convinced Gollum will betray them at the first opportunity. Despite his doubts, Sam's devotion to Frodo never wavers. In many ways, Sam's love and support are what keep Frodo going as the burden of the ring grows heavier. This loyalty will prove crucial later on in the journey, particularly in the moments when Frodo feels completely overwhelmed by the ring's influence. As Gollum leads them through the Dead Marshes, a haunting landscape filled with the corpses of fallen warriors, Frodo's connection to the ring strengthens. He begins to see things through Sauron's eyes, feeling the dark presence of the enemy even from afar. This foreshadows the immense struggle that will come as Frodo gets closer to Mordor. Eventually, the trio reaches the Black Gate of Mordor, but it's far too heavily guarded for them to enter. Gollum suggests another way, a secret path through the land of Ithilien and the fortress of Minas Morgul. Unbeknownst to Frodo and Sam, Gollum has already begun plotting his betrayal, intending to lead them into a deadly trap where they will face the giant spider Shelob. Through all of this, we see Frodo's gradual descent under the ring's influence. His once innocent nature becomes more burdened and weary as he wrestles with the power of the ring, which seeks to dominate his will. The relationship between Frodo, Sam, and Gollum is one of the most complex and emotionally charged aspects of The Two Towers, representing themes of trust, loyalty, and the internal battle between good and evil. Frodo is constantly pulled between these forces, with Sam acting as his moral anchor and Gollum serving as a living reminder of what Frodo could become if the ring fully takes hold. While Frodo believes in Gollum's potential for redemption, Sam remains suspicious, seeing Gollum as nothing more than a scheming creature who cannot be trusted. This conflict grows as Gollum's darker side begins to resurface, setting up the eventual betrayal that will happen in the next part of their journey. Meanwhile, the second plotline focuses on Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli as they track the orcs who have captured Merry and Pippin. This chase leads them to the kingdom of Rohan, a land under siege by Saruman's army of orcs and Uruk-hai. We're introduced to new characters, including Eowyn, a noblewoman of Rohan, and King Theoden, who has fallen under Saruman's spell. With the help of Gandalf, who has returned from his battle with the Balrog as Gandalf the White, the spell is broken, and Theoden rallies his people to prepare for war. One of the most pivotal moments in The Two Towers is the Battle of Helm's Deep, a massive siege where the people of Rohan make a desperate last stand against Saruman's overwhelming forces. The battle is a masterpiece of tension and strategy, with the defenders struggling to hold the fortress against wave after wave of attackers. Just when all seems lost, Gandalf arrives with reinforcements, turning the tide of the battle and securing a hard-won victory. Back with Frodo and Sam, Gollum leads them through treacherous lands, but his ulterior motives begin to surface. He plans to betray them to a monstrous creature named Shelob, setting up the climax of their journey in the next book. The themes of trust, corruption, and the struggle between good and evil become more intense as Frodo's burden grows heavier. At its heart, The Two Towers is about the growth of its characters. Aragorn steps further into his role as a leader and future king, while Frodo becomes more deeply connected to the burden of the ring. The stakes are raised, and Tolkien masterfully weaves the two separate storylines together, building toward the epic conclusion in The Return of the King. Now let's move on to 3 little-known facts about the making of the Two Towers film adaptation, which was released in 2002 and directed by Peter Jackson. First, one of the biggest technical achievements in The Two Towers was the creation of Gollum, brought to life through a combination of motion capture and CGI. Andy Serkis, who played Gollum, would act out each scene on set, and then his movements were digitally transformed into the character we see on screen. It was groundbreaking at the time and paved the way for future motion capture performances in films like Avatar and Planet of the Apes. Second, the epic Battle of Helm's Deep was filmed over the course of 4 months, mostly at night. The cast and crew had to endure grueling cold conditions as they filmed one of the largest and most complex battle sequences ever made. Viggo Mortensen, who played Aragorn, even chipped a tooth during one of the fight scenes, but insisted on continuing to shoot before getting it fixed. Lastly, here's a fun fact about a cameo you might have missed. Peter Jackson, the director, actually appears in the movie as a soldier of Rohan during the battle at Helm's Deep. He can be seen throwing a spear at the orcs from atop the battlements. Jackson is known for making cameos in all of his Lord of the Rings films, so keep an eye out for him if you haven't already spotted him. So there you have it, a quick look at The Two Towers, both the book and the film. This middle chapter of the trilogy raises the stakes, deepens the character arcs, and sets the stage for the final confrontation in The Return of the King. Whether you're a fan of the book, the movie, or both, The Two Towers is a key part of one of the greatest fantasy sagas of all time. That's all for episode 3 of 5-Minute Nerd. Until next time, when we'll dive into another nerd culture favorite, keep nerding out. To keep getting nerd culture broken down in 5 minutes, don't forget to like and subscribe.